Now there's the Kabbalah and other things that gets into the esoteric portions of Judaism that has to do with numbers and how the letters are used. And if we have time, I might go over some of that because I'm just getting into that and stuff. But how does translation? How does translation affect all this? Okay, I'm going to use an example from Isaiah 7:14. Christians in the group Mormonists. I'm sorry. In this scripture, it talks about birth. In English, we know that it talks about a virgin giving birth. The word in Greek is Parthenos, which means virgin. Now, way back when, in Alexandria, a lot of the Jews were becoming Hellenized, and many of them could not read Hebrew anymore. It was only the teachers, what they call now rabbis now, that could read Hebrew. And so what they did is they translated the books of the Hebrew Bible into Greek, and it was called the Septuagint, which means 70, because the tradition is 70 of the elders of Israel got together and translated the Torah and the Torah, the prophets, and the writings into Greek. When they worked on 7:14, Isaiah, they used the word Parthenos for a word in Hebrew, Alma. Alma means young woman. It has nothing to do with whether she's married, unmarried, has had sex, not had sex, a young woman. That Greek version then of the Torah and the Tanakh, which is the whole of the Hebrew Scriptures, became the standard scripture used by many people, and so that scripture became something that Christians could use later to show that Jesus was divine, in that he was born of a virgin, so was Caesar, so was Mithra, so was, Hercules, and there was a whole bunch of others that were born of virgins. That was one of the earmarks of being a God-man, was you were born of a virgin. And so to make Jesus equal to Caesar, it was very easy then to use this scripture to show that he was born of a virgin, and then, now he's something special.
You're going on 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll run through this quick. All right, Ruach, or Ruach, is our spirit, which is female. Translated to pneuma, which is Greek, which is neuter. Translated to spiritus, which is Latin, which is male. And that's where we get the change from female to male. Jehovah versus the word Lord. Everywhere in the Septuagint where God's name is shown, they use the word Lord because of the injunction that you shall never take the name of God in vain. And since that couldn't be really put into Greek, they use the word Lord, which is kurios. And in Jewish prayers, they never say the name of God. They use Lord, which is Adonai. So one of the standard Jewish prayers is Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, which means, blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe. And instead of me saying that in my prayer, I will say Adonai, out of respect. That was put in the Septuagint, and so when it was translated then later into Latin and English and everything else, we completely lost the name of God. So translation just with these few examples, we can see how translation can affect our knowledge of the divine based on the bias of the translator. Based on that bias. Okay, primitive church. Okay, I got like 2 minutes. I've done an in-depth study of Judaism, first century Christianity, and Mormonism. For 4 years in the Mormon church, and I studied things for quite well. I wanted to know. If we look carefully at the Ebionites, who are Messianic Jews, and then we also ask ourselves, who were the followers that actually knew Jesus? What were they? And what was Jesus himself? If we look at Paul, and then Greek and pagan mythology, and then we especially look at a book called the Didache, which is a book of order for the church that's dated to about the turn of the century, we can see exactly how the church was organized. If you compare the Mormon liturgical service versus the synagogal liturgical service versus the early Christian liturgical service, we got it in record of what it is, versus modern Greek Orthodox services, Mormonism doesn't fit any of it. And if we look at how the church was organized, there are no stake presidents. There are no presiding bishops. There are a whole bunch of things that aren't there. They just are not there in the early church. And so my finding, and this was one of the first things that got me out of the church, my finding was that, and archaeology helped too, my finding was that the modern Mormon church, to say that they are a restoration of the primitive church, I have to ask them just a couple of questions. Are you Messianic Jews? They say no. Okay, we screwed that one up really bad. Okay. Do you believe that what you take as the sacrament is actually the blood and flesh of your God? And if they say no, it's okay, you're out on that one. And there are a few other questions that could be asked very simply. And if you look very carefully at the Mormon hierarchy, priesthood hierarchy, church hierarchy, versus everything we know, and it was well documented, everything we know of first century Christianity and Judaism, there is no match whatsoever. And then my question would be, okay, which Gnostic sect are you part of? And if you look at Gnostic belief and compare it against Mormon belief, there's no match there either. So
where did it come from?
Where did it come from? Let me close with this statement. Christianity is to Judaism as Mormonism is to Christianity. It's a new religion loosely based off of a prior existing religion to give it credibility.